Hey, Darrick, nice to meet you. Since this is a new position, could you kind of give us a kind of an overview of what you're going to be doing for Florida State?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. General overview, just to help and improve organization and just help everyone stay on the same page and get the best player for Florida State to do so. As recruiting's evolved over the years, it's an everyday experience now. Every hour it changes by the hour. So the more we can improve communications to help everyone be more effective.
Next will be Brennan Simone from Noles 247.
Hey, Darrick, kind of expounding on that, I guess how much of a role will you have like in the scouting process? Like if film comes your way, do you give it to coaches? Are you part of kind of evaluation? How does that work?
Yes, to all of it, working hand in hand with all of our staff to making sure we get multiple eyes on any prospect, any person that we're going to evaluate for Florida State, and just to make sure that all the opinions are heard and we're taking multiple angles to make sure to limit anything that's out there.
Next will be Kurt Weiler from Tallahassee Democrat.
Hey, Darrick, being a West Coast guy, well, Coach Norvell's been on the East Coast for a while. I guess, how did you kind of first get to know him? And I guess what about him enticed you to take this position?
Yes, sir. Good question. Coach Norvell and I had first met in 2016 at a mega camp. Marcus Woodson and I had worked together on the same staff at Fresno State. I thought it was important just to ideally align in with his vision. And once he explained that, and obviously the tradition that Florida State offers, being on the West Coast, understanding the tradition and knowing that, which I probably knew a lot more about Florida State than a good majority of West Coast schools, just with how the West Coast was. So very excited to get started and get to work and hit the ground running.
Next will be Matt Marshall from the Orlando Sentinel.
Hey, Darrick, I wanted to ask, more and more programs are starting to hire guys like yourself in these type of positions. Why do you think that is? And what sort of benefits do you think they can bring in the long run when it comes to working with these programs?
Yeah, good question. I think the main thing is just the organizational standpoint. It has changed so much in the landscape in the last 10 years with the involvement of social media, the access to film and more information out there, just balancing that act. And just with the contact, 15 years ago, it was one call a week. And now if we're not talking to every single person that we can DM wise and daily communication, it's just expanded exponentially. And so the more and more that balancing act is just to stay on the cutting edge of things.
Next will be Chris Nee from Noles 247.
Hey, Darrick, kind of along those same lines, how much has the creation and the evolution of the transfer portal forced the need for just more eyes and more people constantly paying attention to who is available and how to better your teams?
Yeah, no, good question. The transfer portal, just because it's so instantaneously as guys go in there, that could move on so quick. So those evaluations and that process moving forward, just collecting as much information as we can to move forward and make those best decisions. That's another reason for the expansion of kind of personnel in general across college football.
This will be Carter Carrolls from Tallahassee Democrat.
Hey, Darrick, just what about this job do you think you'll have at your disposal compared to jobs that you've had in the past?
Yeah, I don't know if there'll be that majority of difference besides just another logo, in here. And I'm ecstatic just to represent this place, just always had an admiration for Florida State. It was just something I couldn't turn down. I'm excited to work with our staff. I think we have a great staff in place to do so. And I think, I'm excited.
All right, we'll go back to Ira from Warchant.
Just looking at your bio, it looks like, maybe earlier on you were more on the coaching track. Did you make a conscious decision to get more into personnel, or is that just kind of how things have evolved, and how have you enjoyed that transition?
Yeah, long story short, we were actually fired when I was at Fresno State my first year being a GA. And so once that moved forward, I moved off the field and had an opportunity to do so, and got promoted to full-time later. And at that point, making $900 a month to $25,000 a year, it sounded pretty good at my age. So I stuck with it, and I'm excited to do so. I love off the field. I love being behind the scenes and making sure there's just implementing processes and those things are working correctly.
This will be Perry from Tomahawk Nation.
I reckon I beat me to the punch there, but more on the similar vibe. How did you even transition to being on the field in the first place? You started while you were a student, communications degree. Was it just like, I love football, I want to be around this sport? And then also, how long is it going to take for FSU to be Florida State and not Fresno State?
Yeah. FSU has always been Florida State to me. I'll start there. When I referred to Fresno State, it is the alma mater, but yeah, Florida State is FSU to me. So that we don't have to worry about that. I originally tried to walk on, and that's how I got started. And that was probably my first big personnel decision where they said, hey, you're walking on, you're not going to play here. Why don't you just start off the field? And I was lucky enough to be around great people that gave me that opportunity just to be a sponge and soak everything in at 18, 19 years old. So very happy, and part of a big reason why I'm in the place I am now.
Go back to Brendan from Noles 247.
I'm curious, what is it about personnel aspect of the job that I guess that has allowed you to make this your career? Like, what do you like and enjoy about it so much?
The biggest thing I enjoy is watching film. And so if it was up to me, I could lock myself in a room for 20 hours a day. And I'm not kidding, just to be able to watch film and evaluate players. That is the best part. That is the favorite part of the job for me. So that's what initially attracted me to that. I love turning the lights down low, putting the projector screen on. Now we do it all off computers and TVs, but I enjoy that part of the business.
Go back to Carter from Tallahassee Democrat.
Darrick, I know you've just kind of started here at Florida State, but what are your sort of early impressions of this coaching staff and how good of a job they do recruiting wise?
Yeah, top notch, energetic, very driven, organized. I'm just very happy to be a part of it and help be an aid of however I may be able to assist everyone here just to, move things forward. But as far as a daily involvement in recruiting, I have not been around a better staff in that function as far as open communication and those things.
Go back to Matt from the Orlando Sentinel.
Darrick, two questions I want to ask. First of all, what position did you play as a walk-on or tried to play as a walk-on? And second, is there anyone that you kind of maybe coaches for advice, someone that you kind of admire that's maybe done, maybe not specifically the job you're doing now, but maybe it's kind of led you to the path you're on right now?
Yeah, both great questions. The first one, I would have played anything, so it really didn't matter, but that dream was ended rather quickly. The second question, there's been a very few group of, couple of guys that are very influential to me in this process. The first person who took me under his wing was Doug Nussmeier when he was our offensive coordinator at Fresno State. He kind of just opened up my eyes to the college football world. The second person is Drew Hill. That group was there. Those were the first two people. And then obviously as the career's gone on, there's been more people influential, taking things and learning, how to do things, how maybe not to do some things, and also my vision of how I'd want to do it my own way all as well.
Next will be Ira.
When you go to work for a new staff, do you have to ask, like, what is Mike Norvell looking for, or is that pretty universal from coaching staff to coaching staff in terms of evaluating players?
There's differences and there's some similarities in that sense. What I do believe is just communication is ongoing and trying to learn and initially talking to as many people as you can just to go to see exactly what how everyone needs to be on the same page and what vision is applied. But ultimately the buck stops with Coach Norvell and, what he wants. It's my duty to try to execute the best way forward.
Go back to Brendan.
Kind of following up on Ira's question there, how much time have you been able to spend, I guess, researching, learning about the current roster, and I guess how that will help inform your decision making moving forward?
Yeah, anytime that we're doing a team required activity, I plan to be out there just to kind of observe. Before I got out here, I watched the whole season of last year and just studying different players on our team and everything in between. So as much information as I can collect, I'm going to try to collect.
Next will be Carter.
Yeah, what would you say is kind of your core philosophy in terms of what a team needs to do, what a program needs to do to recruit at an elite level? What are the things that need to happen for them to recruit at an elite level?
Communication. And I know that's a broad term, but when I say that, there's so much that is ever changing in the landscape that the more and more we can communicate, and language being a force multiplier in those things, that has proven to be successful in that sense. So to where it's a relationship driven business now in recruiting. So we're communicating what messages we want out there. I think this communication is the key.
Go back to Matt from the Orlando Sentinel.
Darrick, you talked about with the transfer portal, things have changed. I'm sure you spent a lot of time watching film for recruits, but now how much time do you a day, like, sit down with the portal and look who's out there, when it comes to coaching staffs? And do you guys meet daily with the coach, with the head coach to kind of discuss what's going on in the portal?
Yeah, it's a combination effort. There's a lot of great people here on the recruiting staff side as well. So they have hands in it. But again, going back to the communication piece, it might not just be me who's seeing it, but as it gets elevated to having multiple parties involved to all being on the same page. Because evaluations, it's important just to come to consensus. So that's why you want the multiple eyes, in my opinion.
We'll go back to Ira from Warchant.
Yeah, and I was just curious because, a lot of the people that work on the staff or have come to work at Florida State have talked about Mike Norvell's energy and his, I guess, focus. What have been your impressions so far working with him day to day?
Awesome, great person, great coach. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And I'm not saying that he's a great coach because he chose to, bring me on. I'm saying he's a great, the decision. That's the big reason why I came here, is to work for him and implement his processes. And that was a huge decision factor for me.
Next will be Aslan Hajavandi from Warchant.
Darrick, you mentioned the fact that you like watching film. In terms of looking at film of recruits, is there sort of an art to it that you feel you've got a good feel for? And does that translate to your sort of day-to-day?
I say it is a little bit of an art, but I think it also can be learned too and taught. But the other part of the job that I enjoy very much, besides evaluation, is just helping people grow and helping people improve too, around. But evaluation is the favorite thing, because at the end of the day, we're all judged on this, the type of player we're going to be able to bring in.
All right. So last question. Thank you.
Thank you all. I apologize for being late.
Recording stopped.